I also find the idea of the power process the most interesting thing in that manifesto, and it is something I think about myself a lot. And I've kind of realized, whenever I'm unhappy at work, it's usually related to a power process. I mean, people should really be thinking in these terms instead of like the stupid psychological terms people normally think in. Power process really describes the key to human psychological happiness, and I think one of the ways in which one of the reasons people are so miserable, I think especially millennials, is like we have no fulfillment of the power process in our careers, right? Like I wanted to be a game developer, for example, and I'm so glad I didn't go into that field. It's just awful. And if you look at the games development industry now, there's absolutely no fulfillment of power process whatsoever. You're just like some dork putting together these components to go into this like massive project that you don't really have any control over, as compared to in the 90s, which I found like this inspirational period of these sort of like heroic hardcore nerds just like nose to the grindstone, putting together these projects in their very own like with a lot of artistic care and everything put into every facet of it, right? And it's the same in like the films industry now, and just kind of every industry is like this. I think this kind of explains why millennials are so messed up in the head. I've been thinking about this a lot actually, especially since I've been listening to those Thomas 777 podcasts, and he's like this Gen X guy. And I've been thinking about the difference between Gen X and millennials. I find Gen X really interesting because they're like they feel like very normal people, and millennials are just like all the millennials are just like anxious and psychologically messed up somehow. And I think one of the reasons for this is that millennials were sort of, especially ones who like grew up in the 90s after the Cold War. It's like, hey, everything's great, and you're just going to go get this career and be like your boomer dad and have a house and make a lot of money and have a wife and family. And then like after being told that they're just going to kind of make it in the world and everyone loves them, actually what happened is like you're never going to own anything. You're going to be in debt forever. You're not going to get married young. You might never get married at all. You might never have kids. You certainly can't afford them. And like the millennial psyche just can't handle this at all. And so like they sort of just become helpless. Like millennials, I think, have this learned helplessness problem in particular because there's sort of they're in this like Kafka trap. There's just no way to get out of. And they were put in there on purpose after being lied to about what their life was going to be like. And like their psyche just can't handle it. I think that's why like most of my generational cohort is just so like messed up in the head. Because I'm always thinking about this, like why even like my friends, right? Like so many of them have had problems with like anxiety and stuff. And it's like, why is everyone anxious, and just why does everyone have all these psychological problems? Like I don't get it, right? Because I don't have these problems. But I think this is actually tapping into the reason why.